Thanks to the FWA for inviting me along tonight. It's a privilege to be here with such distinguished guests, and it's just nice to be here. I've been asked to come along because I played with Pele in America. I'm just going to go through the year I had with him. It was his final year in competitive football. My then manager at Aston Villa, Ron Saunders, called me into his office. We was due to play Preston North End away from home on that evening. And he said he'd had an offer for me to go to New York Cosmos, and he'd accepted it. Apparently they were building the new stand at the Whitton End, and they wanted the money. So next time you see AV behind the Whitton End, it should have been SH. Okay? So the guy was in the canteen. His name was Joe Mallet, a lovely guy. He was the assistant manager of New York Cosmos. Joe said, would you like to join us? He said, the deal is you'd come out and we'd do the pre-season in Bermuda. Preston, Bermuda, okay. We will then fly back to New York for the rest of the pre-season. I'm thinking Preston, New York, Bermuda, okay. So, and the first two away games would be Hawaii and Las Vegas. Now, I love Preston. On a dark winter's night. But I thought, no, it's got to be. It's got to be. But the clincher was when Joe turned around and said, oh, by the way, your teammate will be Pele. The Pele? Not his brother. Pele? Pele? Yeah. Your teammate will be Pele. I said, where do I sign? We didn't even talk about money. I just signed the contract. I just wanted to play with the guy who I realised and always knew was the best player in the world. And I thought I can learn so much from this guy. I've come from Aston Villa reserves, played half a dozen games for the first team, and I've got a chance to play with Pele. So off I went. Now, I arrived in Bermuda, obviously very nervous. I needn't have worried because I was greeted by the great man with a huge smile and the biggest man hug I could ever wish for. He was the warmest, friendliest guy I could have hoped for. So he put me at ease, and I was then embarking on a journey I could only imagine in my dreams. So we went back to New York. The first part of the season wasn't great. We were winning at home, but we were losing a few away. So we decided to get a few up-and-coming players to join us. A guy named Franz Beckenbauer and Carlos Alberto. So we kind of helped things along a little bit, you know. And from then on, things just snowballed. It was like a juggernaut. Pele's mission was to win the country over, to bring soccer, as the Americans call it, to the United States, to put it on the world map. And he achieved it. By the end of that season, we were selling out 80,000 crowds every single week. And whenever the Cosmos were in town on away games, it was always a sellout. So he'd achieved what he'd set out to do. So, as I say, it was his last season, and I had to do a lot of growing up that year. I was 20 years old, would you believe, and I had a bit of a short fuse. And Pele always said, Steve, concentrate on the game. Don't get involved. Don't retaliate. I said, okay, whatever you say. We went to Washington. I don't know if you remember a guy named Jim Steele, played for Southampton. He used to roll his sleeves up and his shorts. He wasn't named Steele for, you know, so. And he kicked me from pillar to post that game. And on one particular occasion, he brought me down and we had a bit of a scuffle on the floor. And within seconds, I just saw this blur of punches come, and Jim's joined me. He's flat out. It's Pele. He's done a Muhammad Ali on him. He's knocked him out. I thought, what about the restraint, Pele, you know? Anyway, the referee gets the red card out. Me. Off. But, he says, Steve, this is the referee. Steve, I can't send him off, can I? True enough, off I went. So I did question. I did ask him after the game, Pele. I said, restraint, you know, don't retaliate. He just winked at me and went, good lad, Steve. Anyway. The final game that year, we obviously, it was a juggernaut to the final, and we played Seattle away in Portland's ground. And it was Pele's last competitive game ever in his career. So to be part of it was like extraordinary. So obviously there's a lot of nerves and tension around. The lads wanted to do it for this guy. He had to go out on a high. And Seattle gave us the hardest game we could have ever imagined, but we came out on top. We won 2-1. And carrying Pele on our shoulders after the game was probably the greatest moment of my life. He'd achieved what he wanted to achieve in America. I was 21 years old, and I'm carrying him on my shoulder. So fantastic times, never to be forgotten. On the way home on the plane, I asked him to sign his book that he'd just written, and he simply put to me, which is treasured at home now, to Steve, thanks for everything, all the very best in the future. And this guy is a genius of a player, but he's also a hell of a human being. Anybody who would come across him would tell you exactly the same. Broad smile, big hug, and a credit to football, really. He's just a terrific guy. So I'm really pleased I could be here. He did have another game after that, which was against Santos for Cosmos. He played half for Santos, half for Cosmos, and that was his final game. And it was a giant stadium in New Jersey, and it rained and rained and rained. And it was sold out, 80,000. Nobody budged to see the great guy for the last time. So Pele, I miss you not being here. I wish you the best of health. Get well soon, my friend. We all love you. Good luck, my man. Thank you, everyone.